Great to be in this beautiful place, especially around Thanksgiving. I had come up with a talk name just to kind of surprise Diane, and we were talking a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "Well, what are you going to speak on?" I said, "Well, I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm thinking about a topic called Naked and Afraid," and so. She promptly sent me a text asking for a nude picture of myself to put in a brochure. My assistant saw it and said, "What kind of minister is that?" Oh, it's good to be here. Yeah. Well, I started working on this talk the other day, and a story came to mind that actually an experience that happened to me in Palm Beach. It was a few years ago, a birthday celebration. I was at the Four Seasons, beautiful hotel, and having a nice dinner. And all of a sudden, kind of over in the distance, I see this couple kind of bouncing across the room, and like teenagers, you know. And as they got closer, I began to recognize them. And I thought, that's Clay and Sally Hart from Nashville. And so I waved at them. We went to church together in the over at Mitch's church. And I, as I came by, I said, "What are you guys doing here?" "It's our 30th anniversary, and we've got a room." And I'm like, all right. All right. So I get back to Nashville, and I go to Reverend Mitch, and I say, "Mitch, what is up with Clay and Sally? They just seem so dang happy." And Reverend Mitch says, "I know, doesn't it just make you sick?" And he said, I finally went to Clay and asked him, I said, "What is going on with you guys? All the time you're so happy together and just have a wonderful life." And Clay said to Mitch, he said, "You know what? When Sally and I got married, we made a promise. We made a commitment that we would put the relationship first. And since then, and every time we pray, every time we're together, we remember that, and we keep that commitment, and it's made our life so strong and beautiful." And today I'm talking about commitment, a little bit different kind of commitment, but a commitment that can make all the difference in the world. It's made a huge difference in my life. In our teaching, we learn the value of a principle-centered life. And I made a commitment to that journey some time ago, and it has changed everything in my life and in my business. And I'm talking about some of those old things that we brought with us from childhood, some of those old learned ideas that maybe don't serve us too well today, but are hard to uproot. And little by little, just like pulling a big tree out of the ground, I began to remove some of those obstacles. But I made a commitment to the journey to a principle-centered life. And you can't help but notice, at least for me, and I work in media, the tension that's all around us, that's in the news everywhere right now. It's scandals, crime, politics, healthcare, mass shootings, terrorism, even other people's problems. But the confusion and the conflict, it just feeds worry. And me being from a good old Scotch-Irish family in southern Appalachia, you know, I know long-suffering and worry very well. I grew up with it, and it just seemed to be a way of life. And it's no surprise that I get triggered sometimes, and I feel that worry coming up. And I have to stop and meditate and do a treatment and to let it go, because it is so addictive. when we dial in this kind of culture consciousness or consciousness about the news and what's happening with other people, and when I went home last week and I heard about the shootings in Texas, I just melted down. And you think, how could this be in this wonderful free world, bountiful world, with so much anger and hatred creates events like that? We can see what this worry and this kind of confusion and conflict causes, because it surfaces in, like, the opioid epidemic, which is now in Tennessee one of the most addictive, at crisis stage, as a matter of fact, as it's reported. Addictions of all types are on the increase. Career and financial problems, relationship failures, general unhappiness. Some of the things that Dr. Ken Gordon was talking about in David's reading, this stuff is all around us, and it's happening. It's happening right now while we're sitting here. Last weekend, I had a friend of mine driving through town to take his daughter to a skull race in Chattanooga, and spent the night with me. And on Saturday morning, he got up, and while his daughter was getting ready to go, he came down in the kitchen. He said, "Lynn, I'm really feeling bad. Can you do a treatment for me?" And so I said, "Of course." We sat down over in the corner and took a comfortable chair. And I said, "Gary, what's wrong?" And he says, I think I'm having a panic attack." And we started talking about what was causing the panic attack. And I said, is it your relationship? No. Children? No. Work? No. Finance? Not really. What is causing you to have this panic attack then? He said, "I just can't stop worrying." And so my treatment was about letting the worry go. And in that treatment, of course, it affected me as well, and a lot of my worry left as well. But sometimes, we spend so much time worrying that it becomes a habit. It becomes something natural to us, and it's not natural at all. We didn't come into this world worrying, and certainly we don't have to do it now. But Gary became obsessed with it. And it seemed like, over the time that I've known him, he's always had to have an issue or something that's difficult in front of him, some challenge, something to worry about. And it's as if it just kept feeding and feeding off of itself. We know through the law of attraction that what we think about outpictures into our life, that thoughts are really things. And worry is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when we put that worry into our bodies, into our minds, guess what? It outpictures right into our lives. How can we be enlightened and have a meaningful, enriched life with this uncertainty surrounding us? How can we do that? My topic comes from a story about myself, my second tour in Vietnam. And as a lot of us there were questioning the war, questioning our country, trying to take care of each other the best we knew how, and talking about, how we felt like we had been left by our country and left by God. The issue around that whole situation was, you're in a challenging place, a threatening place, a risky place, a risk of death. But the beauty of it is, when you begin to think and when you begin to stop and consider what's going on in you and what's going on with God, and you're stripped naked, and you're stripped from your friends, you're stripped from your family, you're stripped from your church, you don't have a fancy car, there's no Friday nights, nobody to impress. Money's not important, there's nothing to spend it on. When you're stripped naked, it's a lot easier to consider who you are and what God is. In that period of time, I began to meditate, and I began to boil everything down to the basics and come up with a philosophy that's very similar to the philosophy behind our teaching right now. And it's what saved me. It's what brought me home. It's why I'm here. I worried coming home that I would lose it, that I would lose that connection with Spirit, with God, that I would lose the peace and the solitude that I had gained in the middle of war. And little by little, it did ebb away when I came back. There was a car, and there was Friday night. There was a job, and there was a lot of people around me. And coming home to getting over the stigma of being a Vietnam veteran at that time wasn't easy either. But today, I can tell you that I am so thankful for you and for this center and for this teaching, and thankful that I learned about a principle-centered life. How do you live a life on principle? For me, it's just three basic things. Three things, so simple. To be mindful of, to be conscious of, to guide my life with, to live my life through, to be centered in God. Number one, to use my personal power for good, to love my life. Three beautiful, powerful things. When I talk about spiritual alignment and I talk about Spirit at my center, I talk about not something out of a book. And I'm not talking about something someone's told me about. I'm talking about an experience that you have in meditation. I'm talking about an experience when you get in a dark room by yourself and you feel it and you know it. And you take it into your body and into your mind. And you feel the warmth and the love and the beauty of Spirit embodied in you, as you, loving you, holding you. You know what Spirit is then. And as you trust it, you find your life of peace and beauty just unfolds. That life is easier, that you feel more comfortable in your skin. It's so wonderful. Well, the second thing is power. And when we get worryful or fearful, what do we have? We have a loss of power because we've let something outside take over us. Some outside information trigger our emotions, and then suddenly, and I can tell you as an artist, it's real easy to trip out into our emotions and sometimes get stuck there. And frankly, when we get into that worrying mode, we really lose our ability to use our personal power. We know that through treatment, we are in control. That through treatment, we have the power. We can use it easily. We teach it here all the time. We have wonderful practitioners and ministers that use it all the time, that avail it to you. and you know that it works. It's so easy just to use your power. Remember that you have your power. And when any threats come toward you, just put up your shield, use your power, and turn it around into a blessing. And the third and most wonderful part is love. How do we love ourselves, our lives, others? How do we? How did we learn to love the first time? Did we learn to love with conditional loving? Now, I can't say that my mama did this, but I can assure you that she loved me more when I was a good boy than when I was a bad boy. But that's conditional love. And we yearn for that love. We yearn for mother's love, for the love of other people. We know that our pure, true happiness comes from love. When we feel it, when it's genuine, it lifts us up. It makes us smile. It makes us comfortable. It makes us secure. And I can tell you that in business today, in my week, I have multiple opportunities to lose my love connection. I assure you that the slings and arrows of business or just normal life today can pull the love right out of you. And when we lose the love, it's like losing food, water, clothing. Love is so basic. Love is so necessary. And when I get pulled away, I get lost. I get lost in Never Never Land. And you know, when you're away from your heart, when you're away from love, when you're away from your soul, you're in a plastic fantasy world. Oh, it can be fun, and we can party, and we can do a lot of things to cover it up. But later we find out that it's somewhat empty because we're having that joy outside of ourselves, outside of our hearts. It's not true joy because it's not true love. And so each day I have to practice love. I have to practice it all day long, from loving my wonderful dog in the morning, to loving my home, to loving my car, to loving my drive to work. And I can tell you that traffic can sometimes take that love right away from you in a heartbeat. But with training, we can put it right back in. Now, you may think, why would someone need training to love? Well, especially if we've learned to love the wrong way, you know, we might need to be trained out of that. You know, the Greg Bear from Alabama, a physician that was an excellent top surgeon, found himself out in the cornfield with a gun to his head. And something happened at that point. And he came to. He hit the wall. He turned around. And he's written several books on unconditional love and what it means to be able to love and be loved, to live in a world of love, to take that love home to ourselves. We have the answer. We have the answer to worry and anger and strife and struggle and challenges right here, right now. It doesn't cost a thing. All it takes is a little bit of mental work and a touch of discipline to follow along a life of lived on principle, beautiful principle, and And the basic principle, you know that, as Jesus said, it is done unto us as we believe. And so as we accept this principle-centered life, as we accept that we have the power, as we accept that we are aligned with God, that God is always with us, always here to love us, to protect us, to make us secure, to give us happiness, to make us successful in our careers. It's here. It's already there. Why would I leave it and go into a worldful attitude of emotions and pull myself away from the greatest and most beautiful thing in the world? When Spirit in me reveals itself through love for myself, for others, and for all of life, it's such a beautiful and great feeling. You know you have arrived. And I call that the greatest enlightenment ever, because it's not something you think, it's something you are. You're being, not seeming. You're here now, alive, with the greatest and most wonderful force inside you, a force of love, a force of solving any problem, anywhere, anytime. And with the power of treatment, with the power that we get from this teaching, we can climb any mountain. We can solve any problem. We don't have to be controlled by our emotions. We don't have to be controlled by worry or the culture around us. We have to be vigilant, though, and not let the consciousness of the news media, the consciousness of bad things, invade our consciousness, because we can't be a part of the solution when we're part of the problem. So we have to be vigilant. We have to watch what we think. We have to watch what we bring in to God in us, because it will outpicture into our life immediately. And we have the tools. We have the power. I'm so thankful today that you're here, that our wonderful ministers and practitioners are here, that this teaching is available to us. I'm probably one of the greatest skeptics in the world. I don't trust anything unless I can touch it, feel it, use it. And when I found this teaching, I knew it was real, because I could practice it, because it worked, because every time I used it in my life, something wonderful happened. And you know, it's not because I'm a minister, and it's not because these are practitioners and other ministers here that they know how to use it. It's not just available to those who study it. It's available right here, right now, for every one of us. And that's the greatest thing in the world to be thankful for. You have the power. You have the Spirit. And you have the love. And if you want to know more about living on principle or principle-centered life, you can talk to any of our practitioners or our ministers. I encourage you to get in one of our great classes, and please come on Sunday and hear Reverend Diane and Reverend Michael's talks, and they're just so uplifting. And when I start my week here, my week goes so much better, because it reinforces all the things that I know about the right way to live, about the loving way to live, about the joyful, bountiful, abundant way to live. And it's here. It's now. You have it. It's in your hands. It's in your heart. It's good for you, and you know it. My mama would say that for sure. Yeah. But I want to close today with a treatment, and I want to again just say I'm so, so thankful for what I've learned here. I'm so, so thankful for our ministers and this wonderful center and everyone who comes, our volunteers, make this whole thing happen. And we love them so, so much. But I'm going to know this truth right now. There's one mind. There's one heart. There's one great, great love. One beautiful spirit. One great truth. And I am one with that right now, to know that I choose to live my life on principle. I choose to live a life true to the Spirit within me. I choose to honor that Spirit, to respect it and love it. And I choose to use the power I've been given to do something constructive in my life and in the lives of others. I choose to use the power that I have, and I also choose love. I choose to love everything about my life, everything about me, everything about God. I choose that now, and I make a commitment to it. I know this truth for this congregation. I know that we're lifted up into the beautiful and wonderful arms of Spirit already within us, that we learn to use the power of treatment in our lives, and that we train ourselves to love unconditionally, thoroughly, more deeply, more earnestly, every day, every minute of our lives. We will not let worry, fear, anger, chaos into our spirit world, for that is us and ours to keep. Nothing can stand in the way of this treatment, because as this is said, it is done. I give thanks that it's done. And together, and so it is. Thank you.